So I think we've finally found something that we can all agree about. So I'd like to talk about the concept of interdependence, and what made me think of that being something that we can all agree about is that a lot of the debate that's been, between the right wing in the U.S. and the left wing in the U.S. over the last 5 years, 10 years, and so forth, has been around, what's more important, human development and the economy, or, for example, ecological stability and safety and climate change and so forth. And they're very contentious debate, and um, different sides maybe seem like they have difficulty even accepting any of the basic premises for the other. But so I actually think that the concept of interdependence helps to bring both of these together with some common fundamentals. So first of all, in terms of the economy is a beautiful, perfect example of interdependence. Um, no one can understand, let alone predict, all of the elements and how the economy works together. There are people with skill, doing some predictions and some controls and so forth, but basically the economy depends on a phenomenal array of factors, including human health, trade, the strength of various industries that all relate to one another in very, very complex ways. If any one of these aspects stops working, all of the aspects begin to struggle, and the economy as a whole, whatever that is, begins to struggle. What is the economy anyway? The concept didn't even really exist before a couple of hundred years ago. It's a concept that just describes this whole system of complex economic, there's that word again, but complex economic interchanges, exchanges of value and valuable items and so forth. But highly interdependent system, very dependent on the functioning of each of the individual parts. If the parts start to fail, the whole system begins to struggle and show what you call nonlinear effects, nonlinear relationships. Okay, that's the economy. The environment, obviously interdependent system. That's why we talk about an ecosystem. So interdependence, the concept of interdependence really came to the fore in the 20th century through systems theory and systems thinking. So systems theory was the idea that no, you can't perfectly describe uh, an entity or a situation just in terms of its component parts. You need to actually see how they fit together and how they work together. Only when you can see how things work together, then you can begin to see how that unfolds again in nonlinear ways, or ways you couldn't predict in advance. That is the characteristic of an interdependent system. It's also known as a complex system. So a complex system is one where you might be able to, in retrospect, determine what happened and what caused something, but it's extremely hard to make predictions in advance. As the saying goes, prediction is very hard, especially about the future. I don't know if that was Niels Bohr or someone said that. So the ecosystem, the ecology, is obviously an interdependent system. Pollinators, go extinct because of pesticides. That, limits the ability of plants to pollinate. Plant species begin to die away. Birds can't subsist in the absence of those plant species, and so forth. That's what you call an interdependent system, ecologic system. Now, these interdependent systems, complex systems, they're not rare at all. Every organization, once you get beyond a couple of people, it becomes complex enough that you can't predict in advance the interplay of all the different individuals, their actions, and the consequences. Even within our body, it's a system. It can't be understood in terms of its component parts. The functioning of the kidney depends on the functioning of the liver, and the functioning of the liver depends on your digestive tract, and so forth. So these complex systems, they don't work in linear ways. They don't work in ways where you can predict A leads to B leads to C and so forth. There's an interplay between them, and this is what we call interdependence. So hopefully that useful in terms of some basic concepts. Interdependence underpins almost all of the complex systems that we deal with. Of course, there's simple kinds of interdependence as well. You line up some, Legos and one depends on the other and so forth. But it's the interdependence in complex systems that's even more profound and useful to think about.